Hi guys, Chris here and welcome to my Blueboo Xtouch review. I've been using this phone for about a week now and give you my overall thoughts and impressions on it. First up, the design of it. So we've got a metal trim around the outside which doesn't actually look too bad and creates a more premium feel to the phone without having it being all plastic with a plastic shell. And the design of it, I think it looks a little bit like the old Samsung Galaxy S2, I think, that squared kind of look to it, and especially with that home button there, which does incorporate a fingerprint sensor. So on the front we do have an 8 megapixel camera. It takes okay photos for selfies, and there is a light sensor here. We have our earpiece, and on the right side, there is the power on, volume up and down. These buttons are metal. And it does look a little bit like vaguely like the Samsung Galaxy S6 or the Note 5, the way they have done this metal here, how it's rounded off and curved off, copying that design a little bit. And on the back we've got a 13 megapixel Sony IMX 214 sensor, very common sensor now. It seems to be literally in 90% of the Chinese mobiles that are coming out. There's dual LED flash there, and on the top is our 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. Sound quality out of this jack is actually quite good. There's no hiss or anything. There's no static. Quite good. Volume output is reasonable. I haven't had any problems using that. And these little strips along here is for the antennas. And the bottom two grills here for the mono speaker that's inside. I will do a test shortly of the volume of those. We have our microphone. So overall, the design and the quality of it isn't too bad. Now this backing on it is plastic. I originally thought this might have been glass, but it's not. There's some flecks in it. It's definitely plastic, and it does scratch and has a plasticky feel to it. It is quite a fingerprint magnet too that gets all smeary and smudgy. So the SIM tray holds dual SIMs or one SIM and your micro SD. So here I have set up with my micro SD card and a micro SIM. But what you can do, if you remove the SD card, you can insert right here a nano SIM, and then you'll have that dual SIM functionality. So as I mentioned, the phone does incorporate a fingerprint sensor within the home button here, and all you need to do is just register your fingerprint, which I've done, and it's recognized my fingerprint, but you register up to 5 different fingerprints within the application. I've only just registered my thumb, and it works reasonably well, 9 out of 10 times I'd say. So it's locked, and then it's just unlocked now. Let's do that again. You can see the screen's locked, and boom, it works quite well. It's a handy little feature, and most people now seem to like that. Instead of keying in a password, this is just a little bit faster using just your thumb there. So if we have a look at the ROM, it's a very light ROM. There's no bloat that was included, which is really good to see. A lot of manufacturers will just fill these things up with junky apps that you don't even want, or pre-installed games and other crap like that no one really wants or needs on there. But luckily they don't have their Play Store, of course, is on here. It does have FM radio, and I find the FM radio actually worked quite well. Of course, you need to plug in a headset for that because it uses the headset as an antenna. I'll go through and show you that it is running Android 5.1. And there was a wireless update. When I first connected to the internet, it popped up with a screen saying to run the wireless update, and that took only a few minutes really to apply that. I think it was about 130 megabyte download that just had some various bug fixes. Now the call quality of the phone, overall I found it to be really good, quite clear. I've had no problems whatsoever. The person on the other end of the line said that I sounded clear. They also sounded clear to me. So all in all, the call quality of this mobile phone is quite good. Definitely no problems with it. I'll just demonstrate to you the ringtone volume isn't very loud. I'm not too happy with it. I'll just show you this is maximum volume. Luckily, of course, there is the vibrate feature, so when it's in your pocket, you can at least feel it vibrating. You're getting a call, but if you leave your phone perhaps upstairs and you're in the downstairs portion of your house, you might not actually hear it because it's not really as loud as it could be. I know I definitely like to have quite a loud ringtone sometimes when you need it, especially if you're outside or you keep your phone in another room, and it's quite handy to be quite loud, but obviously they didn't really think too much of that with the built-in speaker they've used. It is honestly quite poor. I wish it was a lot louder than what it currently is. Now, I haven't noticed any lag or stutter within the ROM. It just seems to work fine. It's flawless. I mean, it is an octa-core, and these MediaTek chipsets seems to work quite well. Definitely help with all those cores that they have. So I'll run through a couple of benchmarks that I ran on the phone. For those interested, go through all of those. Just give you an idea of the kind of performance you can expect. So this right here is my 4G test that I did. So I went out down in town and made sure I got some 4G signal. 4G seems to work on this one quite well. I know that I had my Doogee F5, I had problems getting 4G on it. I didn't have any problems getting 4G. It just changed straight away. I didn't have to do anything silly like put flight mode on and then take flight mode off for then to get the phone to then jump onto 4G. It just did it automatically, swapped straight over. Speeds were okay. It all depends, of course, on how much the network traffic is at the moment. The time that I did this test was peak hours, really, in the afternoon. But overall, it was quite good. So another test there that I did with my wireless connection. The download speed, I can get up to 50 megabits per second out of my home line here. So that was a little slow, but the upload speeds were perfect because upload I can get about 25, 26 maximum, and that really maxed that out. So that wasn't bad at all. This here is the GPS. Tested that out. The error margin there of 3 meters, not bad at all. The lock took about a minute for the first lock to come along, but overall I'm quite happy with the GPS. Walking around and moving, and in the car, it did jump up to around the error margin of around about 12 meters. So when you're standing still, it's 3, but when you're moving, 10 to 12. Oh, that was just my FM radio test. I mentioned that before, that it works quite well. Okay, so this is Antutu 5.7.1. 44,000 the score. Not really too bad, I think, considering the chipset is only running at 1.3 gigahertz. There's finer details there of that if you want to compare that to your own existing phone. And this is the slingshot score. iStorm Unlimited. These scores are perfectly fine for the chipset. So it's got the Mali T720s, the GPU. And as you'll see shortly, I'll do some gaming tests that it handles gaming fine. Some finer details there. And this was my Epic Citadel test on the ultra high quality, 26 frames per second average. That's a very demanding test on ultra high quality. But if you change the setting down to high quality, you can see there at 52, very smooth. Looks nice, even at high quality, very nice. And this was my test here of the PC Mark score. And I also tested out the battery life right here. Very important to test this. So 4 hours 55 minutes is not as good as I thought it would be. Now the Doogee F5 that I tested with the same chipset, that got a score of just over 6 hours work time. So this is basically a test that is looping, continuously doing browsing tests and photo editing and things on it. So you're going to get around about 5 hours if you're using the phone non-stop, which isn't that impressive really. Now they do say it has a 3,500 milliamp hour battery in it. I'm kind of doubting that now because the Doogee F5, that had a 2,600 milliamp battery in it, and it got a better score. So not sure what's going on there. And this is the battery there, so you can see this. The screen was the biggest consumer there, like always. And the screen on time, I got 4 hours and 13 minutes. But it did still actually have around about 18% battery life left. So you could go a little longer than that. You're looking probably screen on time around 4.5 hours. So if you're a heavy user, I can get through a full day on this. But if you're a heavy user who does a lot of gaming, then you might have to charge by the end of the day. It might not make it through, which is a little disappointing to see. And as you can see, the battery life slowly went down, and that's when the test finished right here. Now, I didn't have any cell phone signal at that stage, so that might have contributed to some more battery drain. It probably would have actually been searching a lot for networks, so it would not have helped probably with the battery score there. So you could maybe even add a little bit more time to those test results that I got. Now I'll have a very quick look here at the camera. I don't want to focus on it too much because we have seen a lot of examples from this sensor. It takes an okay photo, but I just wanted to point out that the lens within the camera has a bit of a problem that's always blurry on the right side of the image. You can see there that it's blurry. Now if you want to see these samples I'm about to show you, they'll be all in a link in the description of this video. You can download the original photos and video shown within this review. So overall, camera's average. It patched together this panoramic photo okay. Nothing wonderful. I wouldn't be using this camera as my main shooter. Definitely not. This was a high dynamic range photo. No, yes it was. Sometimes there's photo focus issues as well. Here's a video sample.
This is Chris here with the Blueboo Xtouch, recording in 1080p on the fine setting.
And you'll notice that it's a little jerky. The motion, it's not entirely smooth. I took some okay photos. I'll just quickly go through these. I mean, this one here with a reflection on the water looks quite good. But again, there's that problem with it being out of focus. Just on this portion, you see there, it's blurry, and I think that's down to the lens, just a poor lens, or the lens cover. Macro photos came out quite good, as I've already seen with the IMX 214 sensor from Sony. They tend to come out pretty good. Some of the colors are a little bit overblown. There tends to be a lot of over-sharpening as well on the... Now, nighttime video is a whole other story because it's just very slow. The frame rate completely just drops right off. You'll see here, this is only running, I think, about 10 or 15 frames per second with a night video. So if you're going to be recording video in low light conditions, just forget about it. Not good at all. And you can see some of the photos I took. This was taken around about 10 PM, I think. Not good. And the flash, this is the flash off, flash on. Reasonably powerful, but it tends to be oversaturating the image a little. And if you do have a look close up at some of these photos, you see that it's definitely compressing or over sharpening the image. There's a lot of artifacts going on, but have a look at the originals, download those if you're interested in that. So I'll move on now to test out just a few games and see what the gaming performance is like. This game is Dungeon Hunter 5. Now I'm using maximum volume at the moment, but you can hear it's not really that loud, even in games. Actually, no, that's maximum volume. It doesn't sound too bad now. It's definitely louder than what the ringtone volume is.
What would you do without me?
Mortal Kombat X.
You have eyes, but will not see. I will see you die.
And finally, Real Racing 3. There's a tiny little bit of slowdown there, but overall, I mean, it's running quite well, and does look very nice on the screen, very sharp. Okay, so from those 3 games I just tested there, you can see that gaming performance is reasonably good, and we've already seen that with the Mali 720 MP2 that this has, that the game performance is actually quite good, and the octa-core does help there too. It's not the fastest octa-core, so overall, my impressions of this phone, what is my final thoughts on it? I think it's an okay phone for the price. Now, I got this one here for $179 US from GearBest.com. I think for that price it's okay for what you get. I'm just disappointed in the camera. The camera performance isn't very good there. There's the lens, I think, is the culprit. The lens on the back, I'm not sure they've used a quality lens at all. I mean, in this price range, what can you expect? This is a budget phone, but the metal frame around it definitely adds to the phone. I think it's a nice touch. The fact that it does have 3 gigabytes of RAM for this price range, and you do get that octa-core processor, the fingerprint sensor. Overall, it's not a bad phone for the price. I think you could also look at things like the Doogee F5 was one I tested out that I think was a little bit better than this phone. And then, of course, there is the Xiaomi Redmi Note 2, which is very good. That has the Helio X10 processor in it, which has better performance than this mobile phone here. Slightly better screen. It's 5.5 inches, and it's even cheaper at 169 or so. Okay, so that's just wrapping up there. It's all in all, not a bad phone, but there are other options out there. Thank you for watching my review. Hopefully see you in the channel with more up-and-coming mobile phone reviews. Bye for now.